understand the demographic that you're writing for, understand what sort of mentions there are already in the AI engines for your brand, and understand the sentiment of those, and then look at what's going on for your competitors. Look at those pages that are working for them and identify what they've done differently to you. Then basically do better than them and move forward in the space. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. If it's working for someone, just do the same thing that someone else is doing, but do either more of it or do it better. Hi, I'm Andrew Stubbs from the Co-op, and this is SEO in 2026.
Andrew, what's your number one SEO tip for 2026?
Well, from what I've seen in the industry, there is a growing need to understand an awful lot more about consumer activity in terms of where they're actually searching. So the old thing that people used to go on about was obviously voice search, which is obviously important. But now my view is you should really be trying to own the answer layer. And by that, I'm referring to AI citations and AI references that occur. From my perspective, I don't know whether it's because I work in the SEO space or not, but when I type something into Google, or I generally go to two places. I either go to Google to ask it a question to get an answer, or help me on my journey for fact finding or information gathering, either for a product or a service or an idea or a concept or a business. But I'll also go to ChatGPT or Claude or any other of the AI engines, and I'll ask them for their recommendation. I'll ask them, if I was to do this, how would I do it? What would be the best place to find the information about this particular topic? If I was to want to start a business or want to identify a suitable company to work with, who could you recommend? And now ChatGPT is obviously very verbal and vocalized on handsets and mobile phones. So the ability to really sort of structure the content in a way that can be identified by AI engines and get citations and references in the AI recommendations is a massive growth curve for the industry. And I think a lot of people will agree that we're getting lazier and lazier and lazier with our approach to things. You know, it goes to the same extent as people don't walk to work anymore, they get on a scooter. It reminds me of the Where's Wally film, when everyone's on that spaceship and they're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and just sitting there and not doing anything and floating around on magnetic chairs. It's kind of the same with the sort of the SEO space. People are getting a little lazier in the depth that they search the results. And you can see this with the lack of engagement of URLs that are in positions 4, 5, and 6 and 7. There used to be a much higher level of engagement, and now that's dropping off. So the search results are gradually getting shifted down the page with AI placements, more PPC listings, et cetera, et cetera.
Are you saying it's the SEOs that are getting lazier, or the people actually consuming the search results?
Yeah, the people, the SEO space in terms of it. Yeah, sorry, wrongly referred to really there. Sorry. The people, the consumers are getting lazier. Everything's at their fingertips.
So there's so much that you shared there as well. I liked your phrase, own the answer layer. And I was also intrigued by your own personal process for researching, because you mentioned Claude, ChatGPT, Google, and a couple of other places as well. What's your own personal decision-making process in terms of where you choose to go to initially, and why do you do that?
Do you know what? It's kind of, it's weird. I don't really think I put an awful lot of logic behind it because it comes instinctively now. I think we need to look at the concept of redefining discoverability and align with consumer intent, which for me comes down to owning the answer layer. And I said that before. And that's what we do in the Co. We've got a series of really, really advanced suites that monitor AI citations, references, links, questions that have been asked about a particular brand. We have something that is very, very smart and does that. Does it across all of the AI engines. I mean, we're talking the lot. So we're looking at ChatGPT, Anthropic, Claude, Google, Gemini, Perplexity, Grok, DeepSeek. All those engines are considered, and you can then obviously From our perspective, we use it for competitive intelligence. So we compare how often the competitors are mentioned versus the clients. And then we restructure the content on those pages to bait the AI engines in and get them providing those citations and comments. And then we can assess whether they're positive, negative in sentiment, and are they good or bad, and challenge them, which falls into a reputation management level. But that's just one of the many, many tools that we have. But I think the consumers are becoming a little bit lazier because they're just going in, and I'm getting lazier. It's maybe because I'm 50 years old and I've been getting lazy as I get older. But I think if we would be fair and to assess, put say maybe 100 people in a room, or now not even in a room, just at home, and ask them to choose their way to search for this solution, I think you'd find that there's an ever increasing number of people that will reference the AI solution that comes up in Google. And some people may actually just go straight to ChatGPT. Maybe the more educated might go to ChatGPT because they use that to support some of their studies or some of the work that they perform. And it accesses a completely impartial, or is seen to be a completely impartial set of data. Whereas Google is kind of being manipulated via us SEOs out there, with content baited for the search engines, backlinks, internal linking, tags, all the high level optimization activities that are done to achieve those top positions is effectively SEO manipulation. It's SERPs manipulation, whereas AI comes across more trustworthy.
So you talked about the importance of data there as well. You also used the phrase how to structure your data to get included in AI search engines. So how do you go about selecting the data that you want to focus on that is most pertinent towards the audience that you want to target, and how do you structure that to appear in AI search engines?
So it's about having questions within the content of the website. It's about having very well marked up schema and structured data. AIM is a concept where you are focusing on using very specialized techniques to get the AI engines to recognize you. Publication of news articles as opposed to just articles is something really good as well, because it's new information for the AI engines to pick up. So they like recent information and new information that attracts them. And if you don't mark them up as news and you don't have them all, scoped out correctly with the right schema, you'll lose opportunity. So there are many techniques to do it, and they're openly available for people to research on the web. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to give away the crown jewels, because that's how I earn my money. But I would encourage anybody to look very, very deeply into how to actually structure their content to bait the AI engines. And it's quite simple to do. You could literally go into ChatGPT and ask that question right now, and it will tell you.
And does it do that reliably? And does it do that just for ChatGPT, or does it do that for other search engines as well?
It will. ChatGPT is working off an assimilation of data from an index of the web, and it's constantly being updated. So that information is openly available. You could go into ChatGPT right now and ask it, how do I structure my content on my website to get more citations in AI search results? And it will give you a list of recommendations, and those are accurate recommendations. It's not going to lie to you.
Are those accurate recommendations based upon your website or based upon who your target audience is?
Based upon how to structure the content in a way that the AI engines will pay attention.
So just content in general, not necessarily reviewing your website and figuring out what you need to do to improve the existing content that you've got.
Oh, you definitely can use AI to do that. I mean, we have a series of systems. So we have something called a readability analyzer. Now, that's a really interesting thing you've led onto, because we use all of the AI engines to assess the readability scores of the individual pages within the site. So if we were looking at that, we would be looking at the Flesch reading ease score, the Flesch Kincaid grade, the Gunning Fog Index, the Smog Index, the Coleman, the L Index, and the Automated Readability Index, which is called ARI. And then we accumulate an overall score. And what you're looking at is you're looking at trying to structure the content for an 8th grade individual. Sounds silly, but for the mass audience, most people left school a long time ago. Not everybody went to university, and their levels of their reading skills and their vocabulary is not necessarily being advanced through further education all the time. and constant reading. 8th grade individuals are kind of the most popular demographic of people to target your content to. But getting citations is about producing valuable, unique content that answers questions that consumers are searching for. So the first thing you need to do is understand what the questions are. And then you also need to place content within the architecture of the website to answer those questions. That's how you structure an answer or own the answer layer.
I know obviously the tempting thing is to use AI to research what you should perhaps be answering and what the content should be. But that's not really necessarily unique content. That's content that's based upon what exists elsewhere on the web, isn't it? I mean, how do you ensure that the answers that you provided are relatively unique or completely unique?
So the system we use, we rely again on in the readability tool. We call it a readability analyzer. We have a series of prompts, and in those prompts, we will be requesting the AI engine to suggest possible questions that a consumer might be asking. We will then ask the AI engines to actually show us the questions that have been asked around that product and brand. And then we take those away. We investigate the search volumes, look at generally the keywords that are being used and how they correlate within the question. And then we will choose the most suitable series of questions that make sense. And you kind of need a level of tact and skill to do that. You need to understand your target audience. And from that point, then you can start to implement the content in a way where AI engines will actually pick up those citations.
And obviously there's two opposing lines to a certain degree between keyword volume and questions that are most relevant to your target audience. Would you ever target a keyword phrase that has no apparent search volume? And where do you find the sweet spot?
Well, it's really interesting. So if you're going to do, it's like if you were going to do guerrilla marketing and you were basically trying to create some form of brand, sort of, I don't know, some slang word around your brand and be the only person who uses it and publicize it all over social media, then, fine. It hasn't got any search volume at the moment, but you're going to generate that search volume. Then fine. If you're looking to target something that actually has zero search volume and zero users looking for it, that's not really something that I would focus on. The sweet spot is understanding what people want to know, aligning the questions and giving answers around that particular topic, and monitoring the arrival and departure of individuals onto that particular page. So making sure that when people arrive and the questions they've asked or the information they've requested is physically available for them to see, either through jump links to that particular section. You don't want them having to traverse the entire page and look for the content. You want to be able to take them to the content and take them to the information. Once you've achieved that, you're then in a situation where you need to be monitoring how long they stay on the page, what other pages they visit, are they related to the query they came in for, and how long were they on each of those pages, and did any of them return back to the search results or go back into the AI engine as an exit, and where did they exit? And it's data. And it's looking at all of that data and understanding, because if you can reduce your bounce rates, increase your page dwell time, and increase the number of pages they view, and take them to a particular goal, then you're doing your job. But if you're not attracting the right people, or you're attracting what you think are the right people, but the content you're producing or distributing isn't actually the content they want to read, then you're going to lose that transaction opportunity very, very quickly. So it's about lining everything up correctly. It's a little complicated. It's lining up your ducks, really.
And talking about data, obviously the questions that people ask change over time. In 6 months' time, it might be the case that they're asking different questions, or they're asking questions in a different way, or expecting different answers. How do you ensure that the content that you're providing is completely up to date? What data do you look at in order to do that? And how often do you tend to recommend refreshing content?
So I prefer to create evergreen content. And evergreen content is content that can evolve and change over time. It doesn't necessarily need to be revised and changed. It more than likely needs to be added to. Like, for example, you're talking about the Eurovision Song Contest, or the FA Cup, or the World Cup, or the UEFA Champions League, or the Top of the Pops, or the evolution of product. You would have a product page, whether it's about gaming, a sports event, or a set of headphones, whatever it is. And on that page, you would have your description, you'd have all the information on it, all the specifications, all the information the consumer needs to understand. You don't necessarily need to be changing that unless any of the specific specifications and things are actually adjusting. But what you could do is add reviews and other information to keep that content up to date, to keep more content being added to attract the search engines and to attract the AI engines, which are effectively search engines as well, just with a different front on them, to come back and revisit the pages more often. Because if you update the last modified tags in the sitemaps and on the page and do everything correctly, you're informing these machines, that's what they are, that there's something else to read and something else to index and something else to pay attention to. So reviews are really important as well. And in terms of having to completely and utterly revamp a page, the problem you have with that is you're going to be doing it at scale all the time if you constantly have to revamp every single page. Let's say, for example, let's say you're talking about, I don't know, give me an industry sector, David. I mean, let's think of a real life example.
Online gaming.
Yeah, online gaming. So with online gaming, we would say to someone, don't start, if you've got to you've got your odds pages, which are constantly updating, say it's a football event, tennis, or some sort of sports occasion. They're constantly going to be updating the odds and all the information. But within that page, there is a series of historical activities, winners, league winners, star players, records, scores that have never happened before, different tactics that different teams deploy, and the best shots that certain people are capable of doing. And you add all that information into that page and you do a review of the year. And when that year's over, you keep that information and you move on to the next year. But you make sure that you're structuring the content in a way where you build up an evergreen historical trail, almost like a Wikipedia page of what's actually happening. And that is how you dominate the space for a particular sport. You have all of the information in one place, and then you link different terms in there. Like, for example, you might have, the 4, I don't know what it's called. Is it the 5+2 or the 2+4 football strategy? You would then have a definition tag in there. So you would, when you mouse over the particular words, there would be a definition in there so that the AI engines could read and define. There's a definition for something. So when someone says, what is the 4+2 or 5+2 or whatever it is routine, or what's the rules for what's the offside rule or something, they'll actually know that there's a definition within your website and then they'll reference it.
Andrew, what's the key takeaway from the tip you shared today?
Understand the demographic that you're writing for. Understand what sort of mentions there are already in the AI engines for your brand, and understand the sentiment of those. And then look at what's going on for your competitors. Look at those pages that are working for them and identify what they've done differently to you. Then basically do better than them and move forward in the space. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. If it's working for someone, just do the same thing that someone else is doing, but do either more of it or do it better.
Andrew Stubbs is CEO at LKOA SEO. Find out more over at lkoa-seo.com. Andrew, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2026.
Thank you.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2026, the book, over at seoin2026.com.